Today for Devotions with Daniella, we are reading White Women Get Ready, How Healing Post-Traumatic Mistress Syndrome Leads to Anti-Racist Change. This is part 2, Naming Ourselves. I'm working on this for my own daily practice of deconstructing whiteness and the delusion of white supremacy. If you are interested in joining me, you can get copies here. Chapter 5, On Being the Mistress. Obviously, the very idea of a violent white womanhood was antithetical to the reigning ideology and to the gender ideals that equated power over slaves with white men. Thevolia Glimpf, Out of the House of Bondage. I have 3 kids and I work from home, so people always ask me how I stay so calm and organized. Chatbooks commercial. There's a myth in white America that white Southerners are solely responsible for the racism in this country. Despite being raised in the South, I grew up with some of this messaging too. After all, I wasn't really from Atlanta, and neither were a lot of the white people around me. My mama grew up in the mountains of Appalachia, but she wasn't really from there either. One generation back, her parents were solidly from Amish Mennonite, Pennsylvania. My dad came directly from north of Philly, so there was no question on his side. And with both lines being from Swiss German Anabaptist pacifist roots, we were in the clear when it came to being on the side of racism equals bad and having no history of slaveholding. Phew! So when my childhood caretaker, Miss Sylvia, told me stories of mean white boys at the bus stop and taught me to be a different kind of white person, I knew there was some connection between them and me. I knew I was white, but I also knew I wasn't Southern in that way. Cue Scarlet O'Hara. The legacy of Gone with the Wind. Despite not being Southern in that way, upon reflection, a number of curious circumstances stand out to me. On one hand, I was given all sorts of concrete examples of how to not be like the mean, angry lynch mobs and slaveholders of Southern history. I was steeped in Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy. In my 8th grade Georgia history class, the first semester covered the evils of slavery and the wickedness of the Confederacy, and the second semester focused on the civil rights movement. Black History Month lasted the entire school year, and in high school we read nearly as many books by black authors as we did by white ones. Yet, on the other hand, Gone with the Wind made a very short list of parentally approved films for my childhood viewing. This encouragement included tours of the Margaret Mitchell home and a general sense of pride / Mennonite humble that Mitchell was from Atlanta. A white woman role model and artist / writer who succeeded in her field, despite the sexism of the day. When I watched the film for the 3rd time, I loved the dresses. Maybe Ms. Sylvia silently shook her head in disapproval while doing dishes, but not one adult indicated to me that it contained a problematic narrative. When I was confused that things didn't match up, there wasn't any critical discussion to address my questions and help me process it. Why were the white men all eager to go off to war when white men in my church said war was bad? Why was Prissy screaming hysterically in the midst of crisis when the black women I knew were composed and knowledgeable? Why did enslaved people stick around when in all other stories I read they were trying to get the hell out? When my precocious 2nd grade self read the book and then wanted a Gone with the Wind themed birthday party, complete with hoop skirts, not only was this idea supported by my parents, but other people sent their children, mostly white. Of the birthday party goers, maybe only one of my peers was from the South. Cue 7 mini Scarlets and 1 Rhett Butler. Many other Southern cultural things slipped in uncomplexified. These included visits to the cyclorama. The cyclorama house housed the wraparound immersive painting The Battle of Atlanta, which depicts the Civil War. It has faced criticisms about its use in uplifting lost cause narratives of the Confederacy and was rehoused in 2019 to the Atlanta History Center. So the cyclorama, which was practically in my backyard, many picnics at Stone Mountain Park. Along with being the birthplace of the modern KKK, Stone Mountain Park features a relief carving of 3 Confederate figures. It is the largest such relief sculpture in the world, so they are unnervingly huge. With its highly patriotic yet oddly Confederate-leaning laser show, and that one-time trip to a plantation outside of Charleston, South Carolina, somehow Southern white overt racist culture ended up being kitschified by our Atlanta Yankee parents. Not totally taken seriously, yet not totally dismissed. Like your cute kid brother on a good day, harmlessly annoying, but you're feeling generous and proud of yourself for your generosity, because, phew, at least you didn't make those mistakes. But tempting as it may be, we must not be swayed by a theism of, phew. This work is a practice of self-discipline to repeatedly and honestly revisit our life histories. It takes effort to delve deeper into the truths that have been covered up for us and by us. This work also asks for courage to break through pity and self-loathing, to use this honest look to inform how we can change. Healing from mistress syndrome means acknowledging our Gone with the Wind birthday parties, so that we might enter into hard, challenging, lifelong dialogues about racism and our connection to it. Which repressed stories do we need to surface? Which truths from our own histories do we need to resurrect and exhume so that we can know, learn, and do different? Let us make space to examine our internalized Scarlet O'Hara. Scarlet O'Hara is not just a literary racist emblem of the Confederate South of yesteryear. She is alive and well inside white womanhood today, no matter our regional birthplace. Scarlet O'Hara epitomizes someone suffering from mistress syndrome. She is both the mistress of the actual plantation, groomed her entire life in Southern socialite circles to elegantly administer the violence of enslavement's domestic arm, and also an aspirational, adulterous mistress throughout 2 marriages of her own. She has been positioned in the Southern plantation system to play a leading, yet supportive role. Embracing her corseted destiny, Scarlet deftly understands the limitations and the power of white womanhood, and uses her gendered femininity to manipulate and survive the white men in authority, while leveraging her whiteness and class to exploit, command, and violate the black people around her. These characteristics of white womanhood are intricately intertwined and are especially potent during her moments of desperation. Like her male counterparts who rally enthusiastically for the Confederacy, Scarlet makes decisions that further entrench and entangle her in mistress syndrome. The lens of the novel and film center, glorify, and pity her white womanhood as vixen mistress and damsel in distress, while minimizing the violence of structural and historical power that erases the principality of those who were most impacted by it. Both novel and film paint the enslaved characters as equally dedicated to upholding the plantation system out of dependency, ignorance, and childlike naivete, often doing so happily. As a foil to Scarlet's flamboyant white womanhood, supporting character Melanie plays the part of the good plantation wife, a silent martyr who eventually goes full-on martyr and dies. These mistress syndrome archetypes of vixen mistress, good plantation wife, and damsel in distress, more about her in the next chapter, merit further exploration, as they are still with us today. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, I thought Gone with the Wind was my favorite book. And then I learned. Check out White Women Get Ready by Amanda K. Gross.